This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Discover the life-changing benefits of Meow Greens for your cat. Ever see your cat slowing down or having health issues and wonder, what can I do to make them better? Well, my friend, add Meow Greens to your cat's food for 90 days, and I guarantee you'll see changes that will amaze you. Greetings, I'm naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Meow Greens, and I invite you to take the Meow Greens 90-day challenge. In the first 30 days, you'll see shinier coats and increased energy. By day 60, your cat will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients that you've added to their diet. And at 90 days, they're going to have better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you may even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch a free Jumpstart trial bag for your cat today. Go to trymeowgreens.com. Use promo code TRYMEOW. That's try, M-E-O-W. You discover the shipping. You don't have to change your cat's food to improve your cat's health. Just add a packet of Meow Greens.
Thanks to friends at Unreal, you can restock your wardrobe with Unreal Golf Apparel this year, just like Common. Register to win up to $1,000 in Unreal Golf Apparel on our contest page. One lucky winner will restock their closet with amazing golf apparel thanks to Unreal. That's KFAN.com. Keyword contest today.
Let me guess, this one's called Dancing in the OK Corral.
This one's called Goats and Pigs.
Is that a sheep? Or do goats make that? Goats,
They kind of make the same.
Well, goats are more of a blah, blah. My old man had a goat when I lived in Forest Lake. We had he didn't like have a, like he didn't birth it, but we had a goat named Thor. I don't know what, my dad was nuts. And
that checks out.
Yeah, and we had like a hobby farm, right? Sort of, kind of. There was an old barn, and we never used the barn because it was dilapidated. But he had a piece of property. He liked to drive his. Speaking of Ford tractors, he had a Ford tractor. He'd like to move dirt, and he would he would do landscaping, and he wanted a goat. We had Thor, and Thor was a badass goat, man. And you'd go out there. We had to keep him tied to a rope, right? But you'd grab his horns like this. Now, you're far enough away. You're making sure the rope's stretched out, right? So that he can't get, once you feel like he's getting the best of you, you back away, right? But you'd grab his horns like that, and he liked it, I think. He would move his head on, and and then one day we found him frozen dead. He just froze to death outside. Guess it got a bit too cold for him. But anyway, a 5-3-4 time now.
Sounds like it was brr.
Wait, I like that.
Time now for...
It's going to be well done.
5 questions.
20.
Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1.
The year of the cat.
Hey, Common, your Detroit Lions are going to have to make some big contract decisions over the next 13, 14 months. They've got both Aiden Hutchinson and Jamison Williams are eligible for extensions now. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch are eligible next offseason. Common, how should the Lions handle these 5 players in the next 13, 14 months?
Ask me if they'll take a hometown discount. Try to convince them that it's for the team. Yeah, money's one thing, but getting that ring is another thing. The camaraderie. You do it for the city of Detroit, and we can't do it and pay you a lot of money. I don't know. You have to juggle things, and I suppose you do that old kick the can down the road stuff, right? Push money down, bring it up, lakefront influence, then out. I don't. That's why these capologist guys, that's why they get paid the big bucks. Because you got to figure it out. I mean, those names, give them to me again.
This year, you got Aiden Hutchinson and Jamison Williams.
Yeah, and see, and I don't know about
I think he's the one that you can, you don't want to commit a bunch of money
But
to.
Hutchinson, I think you have to. And then the other
Aiden,
one?
definitely. Jameer Gibbs.
I think you got to pay him somehow.
Sam Laporta.
He wasn't as good as his rookie year, but I still think he's a quality player. But I wouldn't give him the farm.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to say I think he's a quality tight end. I'm not sure he's as elite as his first year numbers would say.
He was not,
I am curious to see now that Ben Johnson is elsewhere, because Ben clearly liked throwing to the tight end, whether the next offensive coordinator would keep him as involved as Ben did. So I think there's a chance Laporta might drop off here.
Correct.
And then Brian Branch.
He was really good. He's got talent. I don't know where you have to pay him. Hutchinson's the guy.
You got to pay
Gibbs,
him.
and I think you got to pay Gibbs.
Yeah.
I mean, the running back position is much more important than it used to. It's back to the importance of it. Running backs are like the Spanish. They're taking over life itself. So running backs are big, and I'd have to pay him too.
But then once you pay him, can you now afford to have two highly paid running backs on your team? So then does that make you change your opinion on David Montgomery? Do you need to bring in a different running back at a cheaper price?
What does Mo make right now?
I thought he was like in the $10 million range, wasn't he?
Because I will say this, what do you call him, Sonic and Knuckles? Sonic's better than Knuckles. I love Knuckles. I told you when the Lions signed him, I loved that signing because when you get past the fantasy football numbers, guys like Montgomery, they get tough yards. They generally don't get hurt very often. He's had injuries, but matter of fact, last year he was hurt. But I like Demo a lot.
Yeah, his cap hit is just over $8 million this year, just over $8 million next year, and then over $10 million in 2027.
Yeah. I don't know. But you got to keep Gibbs and Hutchinson for sure.
Question number 2. And now it's time to go between the pipes.
The NHL and the NHL Players Association are negotiating a potential increase to an 84-game regular season during their collective bargaining agreement talks. The league has been considering scheduling alternatives after some franchises complained about an imbalanced number of division games against rivals, contests that typically draw larger crowds and bigger television audiences. The addition of 2 regular season games would allow the NHL to keep its current schedule format, which sees every team visit every opponent at least once, while giving division rivals 4 games against each other every season. But there has been discussion on other alterations of the format as well. It is expected the NHL could reduce the number of preseason games to compensate for the additional 2 regular season games. By the way, the current CBA expires September 15th of 2026. Common, are you for or against increasing the NHL season to 84 games?
I don't think any league should increase the number of games they play.
Should go the other way.
Yeah, it never will for all the reasons that we've discussed before. It all revolves around money. Less games you play, you can't charge as much for tickets and your broadcast rights, radio and television, local and national. So that means less money coming in, and that means you pay the players less. So they're certainly not going to. I mean, we talked about when they had that 50-game NBA schedule, how cool that was because, man, every game was important. You can't go on a 6-game losing streak in a 50-game season. You're donezo. And so I just thought it felt like the games were more teams actually. What the thing I dislike most about the NBA is a lot of coasting throughout the regular season. There was no coasting back then. So I don't think, no, I'm against adding. We don't need any more games. The season just ended a week ago, and it starts in October. It makes no sense to me, and I think the NBA is too long. Major League Baseball. Football's about right. 17's fine.
Oh, they'll be at 18 within the next 2 years. 18
if they take away a preseason game, and 18 is probably too much as well. Because
it's like football and hockey, though, where there's as physically taxing on the body as they are. I think you're getting a little greedy when you keep trying to increase games in these leagues.
Well, and football just doesn't seem as much just because there's only one game your team only plays once a week, right? So it just doesn't seem like an increase would be that big of a deal with one game. But yeah, I'm opposed to it. I don't like it at all. But then again, they're not going to listen to me.
Question number 3.
I'm going to say something controversial.
That's interesting.
It's time now for the controversial question of the day.
Common, would you rather have $250,000 in cash right now or let your wife have 3 chances at a 4-foot putt for $2 million?
Oh, my wife could make that putt.
Really?
3 chances?
3 chances, 4-foot putt.
Oh, yeah. Bag the 250. That's walking
You're a lot more
around,
confident than I am.
I mean, is it like a downhill 4-foot breaker? Is it just a straight
let's say it's
putt?
flat, yeah.
3 chances? Yes. I wouldn't. You wouldn't?
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying I'd put a little more thought into it than you are.
Oh, mine was just automatic. It was, how much did you say was if she makes 1 in 3?
$2 million.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But you're giving up the guaranteed $250,000.
Chump change compared to $2 million.
Well, maybe that question wasn't very controversial for you.
No,
then.
it really wasn't. I mean, not for me.
And that's it for today's edition
Now,
of 5 questions.
If you ask me if I
actually,
was a
3
Zemco
questions, but
202
5
guy or a
sounds like more than
404
4.
guy, that's much more controversial. Abbott, did you know that Tennessee is a green guy and I'm a red guy? We talked about it earlier.
I heard that. That's why I came down to talk to him.
Oh, boy.
I also have to talk to both of you during a break.
Oh, boy.
Because what were you saying Shells was?
28th of June or July.
What if we said the 23rd?
Oh my gosh, you are above average at that.
I thought you were going to tell me that we're going to have to start restructuring the door frames here.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have to return my headset.
We're trending that way, put it that way. We're trending that way.
All right, well, Tennessee got a keyword.
Yep, I do. The Fan and BigDeck.com. Want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Just enter the keyword pay at KFAN.com right now for your shot at winning. That keyword is pay. Enter now at KFAN.com. Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Brad, Sean, Brian text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Brad, Sean, Brian, KFAN text line blowing up, ripping Abbott. Wow. He's one of those polarizing figures. Vibe was going great until Abbott popped in. Need a rant about working in a culture of fear under Abbott. Jeepers. Talk about a vibe killer, that guy is.
It is a fear-based culture.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
It's like Common was once again throwing a radio no-hitter, and Abbott is the naked fool running on the field, completely ruining the magic. I think that's exactly what it was like. Of course, he really wasn't coming in to join on air. I just called him out, and then
Yeah.
and so it was basically my fault, so you can't really blame him. He was just, we were talking programming about, training camp coming up, and how many days a week we'd like to be there. I told him I'd like to be there every day. Every single day. I think a couple of times a week is probably pretty good, don't you, Tennessee? I don't think we need to be there every single day. I mean, we never have done that, and I don't really think there's any need for it. So, but yeah, training camp starts sometime in July. I don't know the exact date, but was it like the 23rd?
Yeah, it's like 22nd, 23rd, somewhere in there.
23rd. So we will be there, and we always enjoy it. We always get a player or two to join us, and maybe one of these days we can get the head coach and ask him.
Good luck to you.
Well, I mean, why not? I mean...
Well, I think we know where we are on the totem pole. That is KFAN.
But, if I...
Should we start putting our foot down?
Well, just maybe, kind of whine about it a little bit and just see, because...
Maybe he'd rather talk with you.
Remember, Zim enjoyed being with us more than anybody, because everybody else got to the point where with PA, they ended up getting a horse divorce. Remember, they owned a horse together?
That's right.
And then PA, remember when I think that was
one of my greatest lines ever, by the way, the horse divorce.
It was very good.
Yeah.
That was when Cousins shoved, he did the two-handed chest shove to Zimmer, and I think he was just like, he was celebrating, actually, And Zimmer took it wrong and kind of went after Cousins. He wanted to punch him. PA brought that up, and then Zimmer, of course, either was denying it or didn't want people to, whatever. That's when all of a sudden he turned on PA. That's the story, right? That's what had happened? Or do I have that wrong? Isn't that, wasn't it the shove and then PA basically kind of called Zimmer out on air about it? Like, what's he doing or something like that?
I know he didn't like something PA said.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was. And he got bitter, and then he said, you can have your horse. And
they got a horse divorce.
They had a horse divorce. But Zim liked being on with us because we're not going to do that. And there's nothing wrong with doing, serious football talk. Coach, what do you think of the division this year? And, but we just like to talk about hunting in Kentucky and this and that and the other thing, keeping it kind of loosey-goosey. And he enjoyed that. Maybe O'Connell would as well. The thing with O'Connell, though, is what I want to get to is I just want to get to the bottom of this. He said if the KFAN were air staff were football players, I'd be the punter. What is he thinking? Pat McAfee? I mean, I was a fierce pass rushing, rocket Gibraltar run stopping defensive lineman, precise route running, sure-handed pass catching tight end. But again, I sort of serve the punter role here. As I said back then, it's like when they said, what should we do noon to 3? I think Abbott and Swedberg said, well, let's just punt. And then they pushed me into this. So,
I feel like you're more like the backup quarterback that comes in and kneels down at the end of games.
Yeah, well, I'm good at that as well. So, comment antenna, the coroner's office appearance really made that segment unappetizing. Unappetizing. I like that. What was I going to do this segment other than tap dance? Oh, I know. It was just Twins. That, again, I don't know if you're like me and you like, I think there were 7 hits in the game. 7. 1 home run. I don't know if there was an extra base hit. I think they might have been all singles. A genuine pitcher's duel ended up being 2-0. Twins win. They were excited about it. And they should be because they've won so few games. I like the way the game was played. I'm not sure that recipe is going to work going forward, though, because that was Joe Ryan. And Ryan, we have 1A and 1B for our best pitchers on the staff. I think Lopez and Ryan are neck and neck. Now, Lopez obviously is injured. Hopefully, on the optimistic side, he could be back in August. On the negative side, he might not get back until September, and it's always possible he doesn't come back at all this year. But I just don't. Well,
if they're not in the mix at all either, you're not going to push them back.
And I just don't think that this is I don't think as much as I enjoy shutouts and 2-0 games where it's crisply pitched. I mean, and both pitchers were. I mean, early on, I can see why the Mariners were complaining about a couple of the strikes. There were a couple where there was some good pitch framing being done, but, I think it went the other way as well. I think, George Kirby was his name?
Yes.
I think they gave a couple of pitches that probably weren't strikes to Kirby as well. So I think the umpire was consistent. But I like those kinds of games, but I just don't think that's a recipe for the Twins going forward, just because I don't think that anybody else on the staff other than Lopez can duplicate that. Maybe Paddock. Because, Paddock started to pitch pretty well here. He was getting into some kind of a rhythm. And now he had that 5-run inning the other night where he got himself in some trouble. But your Ober is just a mess right now. They don't trust Festa to even start a game. They have to they have to do an opener with him playing. Simeon Woods Richardson is like, I don't know. He's had moments in his career with the Twins, but remember, they sent him down earlier in the year. He started in the 5-man rotation and struggled so mightily they had to send him down. Came back up with the injury, had 1 good start, 1 bad start. Maybe he's had another one since that. I don't recall what happened. But I don't see him, going 6 innings of shutout ball very often. So the bats have to get going. Even last night, they had enough hitting to win the game, but 2 runs ain't going to win you a lot of games in Major League Baseball unless your pitching staff is Maddox, Gladden,
Smoltz,
and Avery. And we haven't seen that since it was Blackburn, Slowey, Baker, and
Perkins.
Remember?
Or was it Dunsing?
They would have been. All I know was he earned the nickname Big Spot Scott.
Can't make that up.
PA said he's Big Spot because he always does his best in that big spot.
I think your nickname for him was much more appropriate.
What was mine?
You then called him Moonshot Scott.
Yeah, I think that probably was. Sorry.
I always loved that one.
But anyway.
Well, we always talk about the reason you want to have an ace pitcher on your staff is there's going to be times where you're going through losing stretches and you need a stopper. You need someone to put an end to it. And at least
that's what he did.
Joe Ryan provided that last night.
That is correct. Let's take a break. And
this song is called Cattle Crossing. But this will be our last Happy Harvest song. We'll be moving on to a new genre here shortly.
Very good. We'll take a short break, come back. Mark Rosen just before 2.
Get ready to rock.
Get ready to rock with Cattle Crossing.
Incubus is bringing their Morning View plus the Hits tour to Treasure Island Amphitheater on Saturday, July 5th. Experience the magic of their double platinum album and smash hits like Drive, and Wish You Were Here, live. Don't miss this epic night. Get all the details at TICasino.com.
Well, Drive is by the Cars, and Wish You Were Here, I think, is Wishing You Were Here. Is that Chicago? I think Chicago and Pink Floyd. Are they a cover band? Incubus cover band. I was going to ask you another question. What was the name of that one?
This is called Western Riders.
Western Riders. Riders on the Storm. New genre next. I want to talk baseball again here for a moment, in general, and specifically the Twins. We were just talking last segment about how, well, we were talking about it, but if you'll remember, Dark Star quoting Tom Kelly, the late Dark Star quoting Tom Kelly said, if you pitch and play defense, you give yourself a chance to win the ball game. The Twins didn't play great defense last night. They had 2 errors, but Joe Ryan was able to work around those 2 errors. His line tended to be 6 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts, didn't walk a batter, threw 93 pitches, and, as Bobby Nightingale writes, he confounded Mariners' 32 home run slugger Cal Raleigh, striking him out 3 times. Raleigh was the one that was on the short end of a couple of, certainly one of the pitches was not in the strike zone. Strike 3, he got him looking, and it was not in the strike zone. But that's okay. That happens. Twins have probably walked back to the dugout on a called 3rd strike in which it didn't cross the plate either. 3 Twins relievers and 3 more scoreless innings finished out the game. Here's what Baldelli said. That's exactly what you're looking for. It doesn't get much better. There was a lot to like in tonight's game. 2 hours, 14 minutes, 10. I mean, remember the pitch clock that's of all the rule changes or advancements in all sports, that might be, and I was against it at first. I was, old school back in my day. It's like, well, no, it is part of the game that there is no clock, and that, it's, if the game is played crisply and the pitchers pitch well, the speed of the game will take care of itself. And it did back in the olden days. They didn't need a pitch clock back in if you look back, I would bet, I'd be willing to bet, and maybe I'm talking out of my you-know-where. But if you look back at the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s, I don't think baseball games were that long. Pitchers pitched complete games. Guys were winning. It was not unheard of for each league to have a dozen 20-game winners. You never see that anymore because there's so many pitching changes. But I think back in the day, games were played more crisply. But then all of a sudden it got more sabermetrically and analytically, and you start being more careful, and you got your scouting reports on guys, and games became long. But that pitching clock just moved that game along. I mean, game was over by 9 o'clock. Started at 6:40. It was 2:14. So that's before night. The game's over. And there was a time that's a 3-hour, 14-minute game. That's just the way back in the old days. It was closer to 3 hours. So I think is of all the rule changes made in all of sports, that one might be my favorite. But here, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of that, I just saw today, if you go to PGAtour.com and the leaderboard, they're now going to add a feature where fans can now track the pace of play during each round.
It gets a little crazy in golf too. I know guys are playing for career because the one thing about golf is there are no contracts as far as you earn a PGA Tour card and your performance either allows you to keep it or lose it. Now there's some guys that ain't going to ever lose them. Scheffler isn't in danger of losing it. But, there's those 30, 40 guys, 50 guys they're not in danger of losing their tour card. They're
Unless you're on live, it's not guaranteed.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I can see why guys, especially if you're on that bottom third, man, every shot, one or two swings in a tournament can determine your livelihood, right? So I can understand what's a little slower. They still should. They need to speed the game up. But here's what Ryan said. This paragraph or this sentence that Nightingale writes, I just love this. Ryan gave the Twins time to win with a performance he called more about the art of pitching than the data of modern baseball. Ryan said, I just think sometimes numbers can get in the way. Obviously, that's a huge driver of the game and for a good reason. But at the same time, readying the game, there's a science to it, but there's also an art about it. At the end of the day, it's a competition. You can't really put numbers to everything that goes into that. In other words, he swings on 2-strike pitches outside the zone against right-handed hitters when there's 2 men on base more frequently than he does when that situation is 1 man on base on cloudy days in an afternoon game. Because that's what they do in baseball now. It's so convoluted and complicated, and sometimes it's just about the art of pitching. That pitch clock is so nice. You get the ball back and you look, and I just love the way Ryan works. He gets the ball back, he looks in, he gets the sign. All pitchers have to do it now, but he was masterful last night. And Seattle's a good club, has a good hitting team, from what I can gather. They certainly were the first 2 games of the series. But I just like the art of pitching. You can tell that he's being careful not to say, well, sabermetrics and analytics are just is bunk. Is that a word?
Sure.
That they're worthless. He's not saying that. He said there was a place for it and they help, but sometimes it's just, man, you get in a rhythm and you're hitting the corners, and scouting reports, knowing what guys like to hit and what they don't like to hit, certainly that makes a difference. But Ryan said he struck out Raleigh 3 times with what he called front door sinkers. He said he's the best hitter in baseball right now. He looks confident at the plate. He looks great. He's one of the best players in the game for a reason. I think using that to our advantage there is great. It's just not something he's expecting all the time. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it every outing. I might not do it for 5 more outings, but you just recognize certain situations where it's a good time to do something different. Playing in the moment.
Yeah.
Not just what the odds always show. Well, you know what? Generally speaking, this is what we need to, because I don't think that generally speaking, because every situation is different. Because sometimes there are cloudy skies and there are guys at different positions on the bases. And so it's like, I just love the idea that Ryan says he was just pitching.
Key to beating the Mariners is you can't let Raleigh rally.
You can't let Raleigh rally,
no.
And you can't let who was the defensive back for the legendary defensive back for Seattle during Legion of Doom? I can't think of his name.
The cornerback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman, yeah.
And you can't let Sherman speak German. No, that doesn't work. Anyway, yeah, you're right. The Raleigh guy is intimidating at the plate. I'd not seen him before, but he, of course, he got struck out 3 times. So I don't know how intimidating he is, but I just love.
There's throwers and there's pitchers.
Yeah,
Joe Ryan's a pitcher.
I guess that's exactly.
Yeah.
I guess that's exactly what it is. One other Rosen waiting in the wings. I had another story I stashed away here. No, this isn't it, but I guess we can go with it. It's
the Twins game today, by the way, is obviously being delayed due to rain.
Yeah.
It's been delayed for a while here.
They're doing those. The Sacramento Athletics is what we're calling them. They're passing out grades to these teams. They have a D. The Baltimore Orioles have been given an F. These are your mid-season grades from CBS Sports. The Red Sox get a C. The White Sox actually get a B. Here's what it says.
Wow.
Oh, they're terrible, but they're a regular bad team this year rather than historically awful. In other words,
the bar's been set pretty low.
Yeah, they're not biblically bad. So you set the bar so low, it looks good, right?
They are 26-55, and they got a B. Think about that.
Yeah, they got a B. Better than expected on the field, plus young players establishing themselves is B material. And it could be. They got the Guardians at a C. Your Guardians' grade will depend on how you view them coming into the season. Did you expect a repeat of last year's 92-win showing? Or did you consider them more of an 84-win roster propped up by one of the best bullpens ever? Detroit Tigers get an A as expected. They have the best team in baseball. How can you argue with that? We'll scroll down. Your Minnesota Twins, a C. I think that's generous.
It's very generous.
Here's what it says. It hasn't been pretty outside of last month's 13-game winning streak, even though Byron Buxton has looked like the best player in baseball the last few weeks. The 13-game winning streak counts, though. Plenty of postseason teams get there because one extended hot streak kept them in the game. The Twins are hanging around the wild card race and are positioned to make a run in the second half, albeit without ace Pablo Lopez. He'll be sidelined a while longer with a major strain. It feels like the Twins should be better than they are. I think this is a textbook C team halfway through the season. Would you give them a C, Tenneby? When the season started, I thought the team had the opportunity. We based it all on health, right? And I thought they would be a playoff team. I thought they would contend for a division title and a wild card. I bought into the hopium. I bought hopium. The two bookends on either side of the 13-game winning streak are so bad, though, that it's hard for me to go, But baseball is streaky. But I don't see winning the division seems like almost an impossibility with the way unless the Tigers implode, but I don't see that. I don't think you get. I mean, the Twins imploded last year, so I guess it's possible. The Twins were looking like the Tigers, maybe not the best record in baseball, but they were the best team in the division. The Tigers don't have the look of a team that's going to implode, but I guess you just got to try to grab one of those wild cards. But right now.
If Pablo Lopez was on the team, you might still think, hey, this team might have a run in them, right? Where 2 out of every 5 games, you got Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan going if they can get hot with some bats. But without Pablo, it's hard to imagine the Twins are going to go on an extended winning streak anymore.
Yeah.
I think they're just kind of in survival mode. They just want to hang around the wild card until they get him back.
Speaking of Bobby Nightingale.
And Royce Lewis back.
Well, that's exactly right.
Well, depends what Royce Lewis you get.
Right. And I was about to get to that. You sent me a screenshot or forwarded me a Bobby Nightingale. We mentioned Bobby earlier. He writes Fish Wrap Factory West Side beat writer for the Twins. He sent out a text that said, or a tweet that said, Royce Lewis ran the bases pregame today, and he's scheduled to begin a rehab assignment with the St. Paul Saints on Friday. I'll be there for that rehab game, Tenneby.
Oh my gosh.
Deuce and his gal.
Above average at that.
And me and my lovely wife, Potato.
Now what do you think?
We
Raising a
are
bat.
attending the Saints game on Friday night. We're going to Lower Town.
Well, double date.
Little double date. And
Where's BBP?
he'd rather start his hair on fire.
Doesn't want to be the fifth wheel?
He just has no interest in watching Saints baseball.
Oh, yeah, they're fun.
To each his own.
Yeah.
He has no interest in watching baseball.
Okay.
I'm only going because of get my wife out of the house, give her something to do. I have no interest either. But I'll go. It'll be okay. I like the stadium. It's a very intimate setting. Baby brother Peter is obsessed with golf. That's all he cares about.
Good for him.
He practices every day. We play all the time. We'll play 36. He watches golf videos. Speaking of the PGA Superstore, remember I was doing the commercials for the grand opening? He signed up for the PGA Tour Superstore golf club membership.
Really? What does that entail?
You get an hour of hitting inside with the TrackMan once a day, an hour.
Once a day?
Once a day, if it's available. So you can go there every day and work on your game and check yardage and such like that. Discounts, a couple of freebies. I think he said it was like $250 a year or $250 or $300 a year, but you get all these
with unlimited.
Yes.
No, that's a great deal.
So I'm telling you.
I need to get one of those.
And you need to go get one. So, again, let me put
Is it
an
just
asterisk.
Woodbury and Plymouth?
That's what he told me. He might have been.
That seems like a steal.
Yeah. So, again, this is not an ad I'm doing right now. So don't hold me to any of this. This is not. Don't give me fault. That because my ad basically, if you'll remember, I had no idea about the details, but then because they didn't have the details on here. Where's my commercial copy? But then baby brother Peter and his buddy Jay went to go look, and it was an astonishing deal is what it was, according to them. Here's what it says, Tim. This is what my, I can't find my copy. It's here somewhere. Yeah, it said, join the PGA Tour Superstore Players Club Plus, a golf membership unlike any other. That's what it says. So, and baby brother Peter told me it includes, and I get like a free lesson too somewhere along the line.
That sounds great.
So yeah, so it's a pretty good thing. So I'm going to get to watch Royce Lewis up close and personal in his rehab assignment.
You can give us a report on his running.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a report on his running, and hopefully he won't be there long. The Twins could use him in the lineup if he can stay healthy. Text message says Buxton is having a good season, but Twins fans are delusional if they think he's playing like one of the best players in baseball right now. Judge has 28 home runs, batting .361. Ohtani, 279. 27 home runs and a 291 batting average. Well, we didn't say he was one. Nobody's saying he was one of the best players in baseball. It depends upon what your definition of best players in baseball is. Is that one player, 2, 5, 10? Buxton's numbers, he's been playing really good baseball, I think. But he's not Ohtani and he's not Judge. Not many people are. This one says, Tenna, I just started listening. Now that Freddie's been traded to the Wild, sign Rossi. Thanks, Dave in northern Minnesota. We talked about it earlier. What are your thoughts on the situation now that Freddie Gaudreau has been traded to the Kraken for a 4th-round draft pick?
Well, I mean, you kind of thought maybe the deadline for a Rossi trade would be a lot of times the NHL draft, and that's tomorrow night. So there's not a lot of time here. Now, you don't have to trade him before the NHL draft, but in terms of, it seems like, according to Michael Russo, all the reports are Rossi has drawn a lot of interest from other GMs in the league, but it's all for futures. You know, like I know Vancouver was rumored to offer up their 15th overall pick in tomorrow night's draft for Rossi. And so Guerin seems to be more interested in getting somebody that can help the team right now. But the comment even made today that I saw from reporters is he says it's just a weird year where it doesn't seem like there's any sellers out there. Like every single team in the league, and maybe it's just because the salary cap is going up, that every single team appears to be buyers and are all trying to improve now and win now, as opposed to, other than the Pittsburgh Penguins, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of sellers out there. So I think the market maybe has been a little bit more challenging on Rossi for Guerin than he expected. And I mean, if you're losing Goudreau and Rossi, I mean, they're going to go outside and get a center somewhere. But I would say it's more likely Rossi returns just because it hasn't been the market they've been expecting.
Well,
but typically, if you're going to see a trade like that, it probably would happen before tomorrow night's NHL draft.
You know, I don't want to say I'm not really listening when you talk wild. I'm just waiting for my turn to talk, but I'm listening with half an ear. But when you've talked about Rossi in the past,
you typically don't listen when I talk about anything.
He's a good player, isn't he? Is it the money? Is that what it is that's scaring them away because they'll have to pay him more than they think? Because I thought he was a good player for this team.
He's quality. But at the money that he reportedly is asking for, then you now have to go, okay, we like him. Do we like him that much? Right. And for a GM that's been stuck on the salary cap out of his own control.
Right.
But has been stuck on the salary cap forever. You can't just start overspending on some of these guys and then limiting what you can do moving forward in future years.
So what Rossi's asking is not really market value. He's not worth that.
Well, Rossi's a quality player. He's still young, but he's not going to drive a line for you, if that makes sense, right? Like, he can be a good complementary player as long as you have other guys that can drive lines, which Kaprizov clearly is
right.
Someone who can drive a line. Matt Boldy is someone who can drive a line. I kind of see, I know a lot of people were upset with how they handled Rossi in the playoffs. The way he played in the playoffs, like, I kind of got it. Like, Ryan Hartman was playing better than him. So, like, Ryan Hartman deserved to play more and should have been elevated in the lineup. And you could argue whether Rossi should have been getting less ice time than Freddie Gaudreau, but there's clearly, I think there are questions whether his style of play is going to work in the postseason. Let's face it, the playoffs is a different style of play than the regular season. I think Rossi was a quality regular season player this year. I would have the same questions as their management, whether he can play in the playoffs.
All right.
And do you want to start giving someone $6.5, $7 million? And even Russo reported that he was asking like for Boldy type money, which I'm not going to do that. I don't think he's going to get to Boldy's level.
This text messenger says, contrary to what Tennis says, Rossi is the second best player on the roster, only behind Kaprizov.
Oh, come on.
That's what he says.
Come on.
Says he's the second best player.
He's better than Matt Boldy?
That's what he says.
He's better than Joel Eriksson-Ek?
That's what he says.
Okay. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one.
This text messenger...
He's also not better than a good chunk of your defenseman.
We'll leave it at that. As we get ready to welcome Mark Rosen, and this one says Rossi. And then he says, he's trying to make a comparison here. He says, the Vikings like Jordan Addison at $12 million, but do the Vikings like him at $25 million?
I think that's an accurate statement. Yeah. Same thing we were talking about earlier with Jamison Williams for the Lions, right?
Yeah.
Jamison Williams at probably his current contract, you're like, all right, well, he's fine. Once you have to give him that contract extension, now he's asking for big money. Now, do you really trust him when he gets that money?
Correct. I don't think I do. Yeah.
So,
I guess that's probably what it's.
I'm guessing they like Rossi at a certain amount, but there does come a point where that's too expensive. He's not worth it.
We'll pause and return. Welcome Mark Rosen into the next here on the Fan.